Russ, can a home buyer walk away right before closing?
Contractually, the answer is most likely no. However, the Texas real estate contract has as many as 36 ways for a buyer to exit a contract and still get their earnest money back. However, when you get to the point where you're right before closing, hopefully we've checked all those boxes and removed all those contingencies by that time. Now, what I've seen is sometimes buyers want to play hardball because they think that they can tie up the seller, and if the seller won't just accept their earnest money as their walk away, then they think that they can tie them up and no title company will close a deal until that matter is resolved. Now, I can tell you through relationships with our title company, we had this happen where a buyer said, hey, we're not closing. We found another house that we like, has the same feature set, and it's quite a bit less expensive, so we're just going to buy that one. And they thought that they would only have to give up their earnest money. My seller chose to pursue them legally. All of their contingencies in the contract had expired by this time, and we sold the house to another buyer that came along afterwards, and then after the closing, he chose to pursue the people that walked away with legal action, and they mediated, and he actually won a six-figure settlement.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I've had this happen twice, but with two different outcomes than you. So in one case, I had a buyer walk away literally at the closing table, just decided not to close at no fault of the seller. And in that case, we did seek some legal advice. And it ended up being where we were able to sell the property to another party. And then we were able to essentially look at what we had lost from not selling to that previous party. Now, on the second time that this happened, it really was a lender error. A lender had pre-approved someone and said that they had done all of the checks on the documents when they were vetted. But as it turned out, that buyer was not in a financial position to purchase. And so it fell apart on closing day. Now, in that situation, the sellers were able to get the earnest money and move on so that they could quickly sell the property after that. So there are different outcomes that can happen if a buyer walks away. It can end up in a settlement of a large sum of money. It can end up in the legal system and maybe less money, but still a settlement, or it can end up where they lose their earnest money and everybody goes their separate ways.
The point being that we want to protect the seller, assuming we work for the seller at this point, right? So we don't want a buyer to just be able to walk away without consequence. And the more steep the consequence is for that buyer trying to do so, the better for our seller client. So we really do, first of all, we vet the buyer. Before you agree to a contract, when we're representing you as a seller, we're going to call the lender and say, hey, have you seen these documents or did you just pull credit? So we want to protect you going in, and then if things get rocky like that, then we want the buyer to feel the heat for sure.